Hey guys. So I wanted to make a video about gaming and how development cost and times have really affected the overall just industry. Because the thing is, with microtransactions, 7 year plus development time, uh, games needs to sell millions upon millions of copies in order to profit. So the reason this video I wanted to make is because of the whole Square Enix thing where they Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has been considered a disappointment, and so is 16, and I guess any other game that's came out in the last 2 years or year or whatever. And it just makes me think to myself, well, duh. Like, seriously, that's not rocket science. Like, why can no one try to figure out a way to make games in a different way? Like, why does everybody do the same thing? Nobody branches out. Take wrestling, for instance. It's just something that came out in my head just now. Everybody did wrestling back in the 70s and early 80s the same way. And then when Vince McMahon, and does WWF, and he does it so different. He makes this wrestling event with, takes other people's guys and just puts them together, puts some celebrities together, makes this ultimate event at a risk, of course. And in everything else he's done, since he's tried to do things differently. He's done probably way more bad than good, but still, that's my point. Is like nobody in the gaming industry is really doing anything different. Everybody's chasing after graphics and frame rate to a point, but it's just like no one cares about graphics that much. Not for every game. We do want the next big thing, but not every game needs to be so innovative every single time. Now, when I was younger, I wanted to be a video game designer. So I've always I used to have a game kind of like I would write stuff for it, and I would have it in my head fantasies and how it would play out, and I would have characters and in the world, like places, and then I would have like the sequels in my head and how. And here recently, I've had it in my head of like how I would picture. I would have like 10 games, and that sounds like a lot of games, but it's one big story, right? But 10 games, right? And the way I would make these games is I would make them kind of small, but they will feel like complete games, and they would be a little bit cheaper. But the whole purpose that I would go into with each game is to budget each entry to where I can profit off of only selling a couple of million, or maybe just a million, if that. I don't even know. I think 500,000. If you cannot, you should be able to profit off of 500,000. And then anything above that is great, right? Now, I know the bigger risk equals the bigger reward type thing, and that's what everybody's chasing in the gaming industry. I get that, right? All right, my battery's low. I had to check the battery. But yeah, I would make the first game, and it would be kind of small, and it would tell this confined little story, but it'd get the point across. It would focus on one character, and it would be a bunch of characters in my game, by the way. And they would all kind of play into the overall story. Some of them would die. Some of them would play or become supporting characters to bigger characters that would be introduced. The main character I pictured in the fourth game. And I would build up like 3 games before I'd get to the big open world game, right? So I'd have like 3 small games, kind of different genres. Like the first one would be like tighter and darker and horror, and the second one would be kind of the same but like a little more actiony. And then, of course, the game I'm talking about that I've always had in my head is like a Diablo, not Diablo, like an Elder Scrolls slash Dragon Age Origins type. Like that's the theme of the game, like kind of that dark Western RPG, mixed with it's an action RPG. It's like an action RPG, maybe with some like pausing like Final Fantasy 7 Remake. So, I don't know. It's just something I've always played around in my head, just thinking about how I would make this ultimate game with the ultimate story and all these characters. And, it ends up in like this big Dragon Ball Z type, characters getting stronger and stronger, and the enemy, changing over time, and twists and turns in the plot, and, yada, yada, yada. But overall, each entry would just play into like specific parts of the story. But they would feel like, like they would not leave people unhappy. So instead of having, like this big grand thing all in one, and blowing everything in one basket, you would just be focusing on a great experience, and not necessarily trying to get each game with the next technology of the next generation. Like Elder Scrolls is trying to do with or Todd Howard's trying to do with Elder Scrolls, where the next game has to be this big, epic, next gen thing. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Just make the next Elder Scrolls. At this point, anything is an improvement. Skyrim came out in 2011. Come on, people. Jeez, the technology hasn't changed that much. I mean, it hasn't. Honestly, but still, let's get on with it. Worry about the physics, because the physics was great for 2011. Like, Skyrim was one of the better looking games of that time. And that was surprising, because Oblivion and Morrowind wasn't the best looking games for their time. Just like GTA was always awful looking for their time. Until 4 came out. Then boom, one of the best looking games. Weird how that happens, but still. The thing is, you can make the same engine, the same graphics, different story, different area, or even the same area. Take Saints Row 2, for instance. Saints Row 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. It's like in my top 2, my second favorite game of all time. It might have bumped down a few notches. I don't know. It kind of, and probably it's aged badly, so if I played it again, it would definitely be bumped down, but for when I played it, it's like my number 2 game. Saints Row 2 is the same city as Saints Row 1, about the same graphics, same Xbox 360 game. It was always on PS3, I believe. The first one wasn't. It was just Xbox 360. The same city, but they expanded it a little bit, added new little areas like the lighthouse area and construction. So it kind of gave it a little bit of a different look in certain areas. But it was the same area, just expanded on. And so it was basically the same game expanded on. That is DLC done right, basically. That's what games should be, is DLC expanded upon until you're ready to take to the next level. You don't always have to take the next level. Each game, you can't just go with one game. It takes way too much money to make one game. You need to take that game, add to it, and don't just add to it for free. Add to it, expand on it. Don't do like WWE and Assassin's Creed, or the old Assassin's Creed. I think they've changed since. I don't know. I haven't played since 2. But it used to be the same thing every year, just like WWE. And WWE takes these little tiny steps forwards because they make them yearly. I don't know why. It takes way too much time nowadays to make a game. You think a year? It takes 7 years to make a proper full-blown game. You think a year, even for like a WWE game, is enough? No, it's not. Now, if you like did live updates, which is what I prefer WWE to do, where they can keep adding on, you just play, like, you either pay a subscription or you just maybe pay $60, but it's the same game with added shit, and then you have to download the patch. It's basically a new game, but they don't mess with it too much to where they have to start over in any way. Maybe they won't lose licenses. I don't know how licensing works, but it would be cool if like they did that, and they like once every generation, or maybe twice every generation, that they made one game and then just updated it every year, and not just every year, but multiple times a year. So that means they always fresh. They don't always have to wait till the next thing. Somebody comes out with a new costume, great, add it into the game. Don't charge it piece by piece. Charge it based on. Let me check the battery again. Okay. It's not draining as much as I expected. But, yeah. Instead of charging that, just, for the summer. Hey, okay, we got a bunch of updates. Cool. Or do it in advance. Like maybe charge like a season pass type thing. Maybe like charge $60 and you get the next year. And they'll tell you like all the things coming, like a story mode and all this, and or this or maybe they charge both. Maybe I don't know if they can do that legally. I don't know what the legal things are with but basically like a Patreon or a Kickstarter, whatever you want to, where they have like a support system where you have a subscription. I don't know. Like they should have ways to like subscriptions work probably better than anything. Microtransactions. You can have microtransactions. Just I don't know. Just do it in a way where it doesn't affect the overall experience. And don't make it to where it's like, oh, you have to buy something with real money in order to unlock something, or you have to pay to speed up the process because it's too grind heavy. That kills the experience. You had to buy the accelerator to properly unlock everybody. I'm like, that's just a cheat code. And even if you don't have the cheat code, you pretty much want to buy it because it's so dang slow. So it's not balanced like an old game. Old game, you can unlock everything yourself, but if you really had zero patience, then you can use a cheat code. Now it's like you can't have patience. I mean, you have to have a lot of patience, or play the game like crazy and not worry about unlocking everybody until later. But I have too many gaming interests and not enough time to play the games I have to really worry about stuff like that. So I just don't have the time. But whatever. Oh, gaming is frustrating, but it's mainly the developers. It's like they don't think about these things. Like they can find ways to make money, and it's like gaming cannot profit alone. Like 60, $70, that is not enough to make profit on these games, because the more you asking for people to pay, the less people are going to buy. That's just the way of life. Like even though people are still going to buy your games, but they're only going to buy the most required games, the ones with the biggest hype. And guess what games are going to have the biggest hype? The ones where you spend millions of dollars to market. So that's more money you got to make off of a game because you spent so much money on marketing. So you got marketing fees. You got, it's just a pit hole. And if you manage to make this overpriced game with this overpriced marketing, and you just happen to have all this money, that's only if you're lucky. Because not just because a game is good, just because a game is marketed well, doesn't mean it's going to be bought. So that's such a high risk. And not everything needs to be high risk. Things with like a great idea, something that stands out. Another great RPG is not going to stand out. A game like Baldur's Gate 3 was kind of risky, so I mean that just happened to, I guess, sell well. And even then, I don't know if it sold that well. But I'm surprised Elden Ring sold like what 10, 12 million copies, probably more now. But I don't know. For a Dark Souls game, wow, that is a lot. For such a niche game. But that's the thing. That's a great example. That's kind of the way I would make my game. Dark Souls is not graphic heavy. It's not story heavy. It's not budget heavy. I'm sure it don't cost that much to make those games. They're still fully realized games, but it's just like, they're pretty simple. They're pretty much similar to each other, just different world, same engine, same mechanics. 1 and 2 and Demon Souls and even 3, even Bloodborne's a little different, but like it's basically the same game. But the thing is, the way the games are, and I'm a Souls fan. I haven't got past Dark Souls 3. That's the latest I've gotten into. I have so many gaming interests. I'm trying not to play just the Souls games. I need a break too. I play Neo as well. But anyway, I don't know what I was saying, but I lost my train of thought. But like you have these games. It's proven. You can have this simple formula, just having great games. It might be sometimes you might have to add a little bit more. Assassin's Creed, I guess, was okay. I mean, people like me don't care about it anymore. It was very repetitive, but it kind of had the same thing where it's like you stand out for one thing. The gameplay stands out. You're already 80% of everybody else because it's like JRPGs. There are a dime a dozen, but the thing about JRPGs is they are the one genre that gets it with the graphics. They don't spend 1,000 or millions upon millions of dollars on just graphics alone. They, development times aren't that great. But the thing is, none of them stand out to me. They just look all anime, chibi looking, games now. I'm playing Dragon Quest 11 right now, which I originally hated back in 2020 when I first tried it, and I gave it another chance recently, and I'm so glad I did because it honestly is one of the better games I've played. I think I actually like it better in Persona 5, which is weird because I remember I played Persona 5 right after that in 2020, and I was like, this is so much better than Dragon Quest 11, but it was so long, I was so burnt out, and I was like, get this game done. I'm done with it. God, games are too long. Can you imagine Persona just being pieced together? Maybe first semester, second semester. They're long enough. Like, and if the games are like almost done, and you like sell them in like smaller amounts, like my 10 game series would be almost yearly, and like at least like maybe the first three, and then the fourth one would be like this open world game, and on the next generation with all these graphics put into it, like all these high budget, and that's then you spend your money on that one. You try to profit as much as you can, trying to get the money to spend making the big open world game, which is 4, and then the 5th one you pretty much have the same world, just different missions, added content, and stuff like that. Same graphics, not too long, maybe a year or two after that, maybe 3 years, and just expand the fuck out of it and make it to where like it's like Tears of the Kingdom versus Breath of the Wild, which I still haven't played Tears of the Kingdom, by the way, but basically that. And they get it right. Nintendo gets it right. They don't spend all this money on graphics. They don't even have the capabilities because their system isn't graphic heavy, but their games are expensive as hell, and they will not go down in price. That's annoying. But they get it right, and they stand out. They focus on what works. That's why Nintendo is so successful. And the only bad part is they don't ever bring back games that aren't that successful for some reason. Like Metroid, they took forever to come back, and when they finally did announce it, it's been like 8 years since Metroid 4 was announced. Ugh, it's annoying. But yeah, that's kind of my rant. Basically is like, stop focusing so much on making these big giant games. You know what one, or if not the most successful game is? I don't know if it is the most successful, but in the top 2 or 3, Minecraft, a game that looks almost like an NES. I don't know if it's SNES, NES, maybe level, but yeah, kickstart some of these games. I don't care if you're successful or not. Give these people have the opportunity to support anyone, and gaming is so expensive. Why not ask the people, what do you want? What features do you want? How much money do you need help with? People will pay you. I promise you. I don't care if you're a big company or not. Let them pay for some of the extra. If it's not profitable, think of how much you need extra on top of what already sold to profit, and maybe expect that in a Kickstarter. Do something, people, please. God, I'm just so sick of waiting 1,000 years for every game. And every time I get a game, it's like, oh, that was great. Every time I get a good game, I'm like, oh, that was great. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get another game like this for another 9 years. That was Final Fantasy 16. Well, I can't say that. Final Fantasy 16 was very disappointing. And 15 sucked. And 13 was eh. So it was like, so 2010 was the one, 2009 was when Final Fantasy 13 came out. So 2009 to 2024, I've had, well, not counting the 13 sequels, but I've had 3 to 6 games. I haven't played this 13 sequels, so in what is that? 15 years on, or yeah, 15 years. It's been 15 years. Gotten 3 freaking games, and they all sucked. And look what happened. Final Fantasy 7. Final Fantasy, let's just get Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 6 games in 10 years. And all of them were amazing. All of them. And 10 was okay. That's a controversial opinion, but so yeah, like yeah, 6. Would that make 6 games? But anyway, either way, 12 was okay. I didn't really care for the remake or the remaster because they added the fast forward feature, which was way too, I don't know. But yeah, gaming used to come out yearly, and they would have these giant epic adventures, and it's like it was so full of content and fully realized and cheap to make, and it's like they could be cheap to make now. They could. And guess what happens? You either have AAA where it's like takes like 12 million copies sold to profit, or you make this like little tiny game that nobody cares about because it looks like an NES game. It's like, where's the in between? Why can't we have like these simple looking games that look decent? Like a JRPG these days, Tell's games, they look nothing special. The PS3 looking games, most of them, well, I mean, I think Arise changed to think the graphics. I don't know, but still, I haven't got into the Tell's games yet. I tried Xillia, didn't like it. I want to give it another chance, even though it's not ported, but still, I got a PC for anything like that. So anyways, guys, that's my rant. What do you guys think? I know it's all over the place. That's the way my brain works. Sorry, don't like editing because it's a phone. I don't have a webcam. I could do the webcam thing. I do have an editor on this phone, I think. I don't know if I deleted it, but whatever. Anyways, guys, let me guys know what you think, or give me your way, what you would do with games not profiting or profiting, whatever. What ideas would you have for, or what would you want from the game industry for where you can have more games, but to where they're not having to chop it up in content, take away features, and only focus on stuff. I mean, that was like WWE games without a story mode at all. So it was like, Call of Duty barely has a story mode half the time. It's like, come on now. I don't play Call of Duty anyway, so but still, people just like focusing on what people like instead of trying to appeal to like doing more niche things. I know there's indie games, but they're small, they're little tiny pieces of games. They're nothing. All right, guys, I'm gonna cut the video.